Warm welcome to the Energy On Show, the show where everything revolves around your energy. Because maybe you're not aware of it, but your energy is your most valuable currency. Because what can you do with all your time, if you don't have the energy to really do what you want? That's why we have this podcast and this channel here, and then where I'm sharing all my energy hacks and insights. So you have all the energy you want to have. And sometimes I'm also inviting some really inspiring people and ask them to share their hacks. And today is one of these days, and I'm really, really happy to have the wonderful Helena Zachariassen here. Hi, Helena. How are you?
Hi, Cornelia. How are you?
All good. I'm really curious to hear about, your story. And for those of you who do not know Helena, she is a life coach and a certified KonMari consultant. Sorry about that. So KonMari Consultant. And what I think is so special about you that, you're having your Nordic background with all your passion for nature and beauty, all the Nordic style, right? And this really clean style. And you're kind of combining it with all this organizing from Marie Kondo. And I think that's really very special. And so you help people to organize their life and to declutter their life and to show them how much more, more enjoyable life is with less. And I think this is such an incredible approach, because if you normally look around, then we are so completely absorbed by the materialized world, right? We all define ourselves. The more we are having, the more success we are having, the better it is for our reputation. And I really like your approach, that how to declutter your life, how you have more energy, because now here we're talking about the energy. So, take us back in this moment. When did you start to declutter, and what did you declutter first? And most important, why did you even start this journey?
Cornelia, thank you so much for inviting me. And let me start by saying, first of all, everything is energy, and you of all people know that. And I think this is what actually was the trigger for me, because my energy was dropping. And this is now, I'll take you back to where this all started. And that was when I had two young kids, both under 3, and I just felt so overwhelmed, so tired of everything. And we had so much stuff that came in with babies, and all of the things that you need in addition to what you already have in a home. But with 2 small kids, it was just too much for me. And I realized that that's when I needed some help. So I got another person to help me out. She was a KonMari consultant, and this is how I got into this whole idea. I was aware of it, and I had the book, and I had read it as well. But doing it on your own is very time-consuming and very difficult, and you don't know where to start always. So we did the whole so-called tidying festival, as Marie Kondo is teaching us to do. And that was life-changing for me and for the family as well, because we did all the different categories, and that's how I realized this is not about the stuff itself. It is about so much more. And then I also realized, okay, this is something that I would love to use in my own work. So I was already a life coach at the time. I didn't do it that actively at the time when I had my small kids. But then I realized this is something that actually can be done together, because it has so much potential to actually, you can grow as a person because you get the clarity. So it's really about life coaching. The stuff is the secondary thing. it's lovely to have everything in order. Don't get me wrong. And that's also what I love. But there are so many aspects and levels of it. So once you start getting rid of the things that you no longer, or the things that are no longer serving you, that you don't really need, then only can you see what really matters. Because otherwise you have so many to-do lists, you have so many things that are weighing you down. And then it gets so much easier when you know what to focus on, when the stuff is not the focus anymore. And then it's like you said, we look at success through material things as well. And this actually is taking it back to the roots, that the things are not what makes you happy.
That's so true.
Yeah. And there's nothing we can take with us anyway when it's time to leave this planet. It's going to stay here. So I think it's been such a big growth process to realize what is making me happy and enjoyable and what is life actually about. So this is where it all started.
I think you said one really incredible sentence. You found out, or it's about finding out what really matters. And so what did you find out what matters to you?
Well, there are many things, of course, in everyone's life, but I would say for me, it's a lot about my family. It's a lot about what makes me feel fulfilled, so that we have a purpose. That is the most important thing for everybody, that we feel that what we do has an impact on other people. Whether that's big or small in the corporate world or not in the corporate world, does not matter what you do, actually, as long as you feel fulfilled and that it has meaning to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one of the biggest learnings for me, that I could see, hey, there is something outside of, the boxes that we think we all should fit into.
Yeah, that's so true. No boxes at all, right?
Yeah.
And you said, you started off with this decluttering. I don't know, I can't remember the exact name, decluttering festival, or how did you call it? So, because I think it's exactly as you're saying. Sometimes you really kind of feel the need that you need to declutter, to get rid of stuff, but then it's so overwhelming because we have so many things, you don't know where to start. Do you have kind of what's your uttermost tip you can share with us, so you can really kind of get started?
Well, there's 2 tips I can give you. And the first one is to do it in small chunks, because otherwise it's way too overwhelming. So let's say you have a house full of different things everywhere, then it's too much for anyone, really, because you don't know where to start. So I would say start with the one place or one thing that annoys you the most, whether that's, I don't know, your closet or something in the entrance, there's shoes everywhere, or just a small, tiny area. And then do that half an hour. And then when you can see the results, that's a motivator to continue. So that's rule number 1, to just do really tiny chunks at a time. It could even be shorter amounts of time, 10 minutes or so, whatever fits into your lifestyle. But the key here is to see the results, because otherwise there's no motivation. And also you can do it together with your kids if you have smaller kids, so that they can also learn from the experience. That's where we come in as adults and parents, to be their role models. How could they otherwise know what it means to be tidy or be organized? And that's what my kids love to do. They see what I do and they're like, oh, I want that too, mommy. Can you help me? So that's really, really fun to see also how they learn. But the other tip is that if it really feels too overwhelming, get help, ask for support. There are people like me, there are others as well, who can just really be there, hold your hand and do it together. There's so many different options. That's what I did as well. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without that support. because at the time I was too overwhelmed with two small kids. And yeah, sometimes it's just better to ask for that help, because that's not a weakness, that's a strength when you can really ask for help.
And how long did it take, did you kind of clear out the whole house with support, or you started like, and then all of a sudden you said, okay, now from here I can do it on my own?
Yeah, it's always a work in progress, I would say, even because you need to maintain it as well. So I would say the first initial time frame was maybe around 5 months or so. But as I said, this is a process, so you cannot be too quick, because you need to process what's going on, what's happening when you actually clear all those things. So there's a lot of energy shifting when you start this process. So it's good to have like a week in between the sessions. If you take like one day and then you do a week in between, so you can actually process all those feelings and emotions that come up. Because it's not always so easy to go through a lot of, it's like going through your whole life and your past up until that day. So it can be very emotional as well.
And just out of curiosity, did it happen to you that you kind of threw something away that you really kind of regretted afterwards and thought, oh, now I would really love to have it again? And did it ever happen to you?
Actually, no, never, not a single thing. Because I think when you get into the whole process, the whole routine of when you know that you're so ready to do this, no, I didn't have that at all. But I did leave some of the things that I felt were too difficult. That's why the KonMari method has a separate, or actually a very special order in which you go through the things, so that you start with the easier things. So your clothes is the first category to go through. And then the last category is the sentimental items, which makes complete sense, because then you have actually gone through everything and you're very tuned into your own feelings and emotions of what means something to me and what's important to me. So I chose to keep a few photos, and I had some boxes with old pictures, and I wasn't ready to go through them yet. So I left those for a few months. And then when I was ready, I had a glass of wine and then I went through them. And then it was much easier and much more enjoyable as well.
Okay. So in a way, yeah, I think it's also with energy work, some things, some emotions or some blocks, they only show up when you're ready to work on them. And I think it's very helpful that you say, yeah, it takes out a little bit of the pressure, right? And then maybe you can even keep 2 or 3 boxes and then put them in there. And then, when you're ready, then you look into there.
Absolutely. And there should never be any pressure when you're decluttering, because that means you're not ready to look at them. So your environment actually reflects how you feel inside. So if it's very chaotic outside, it might feel chaotic inside too. And that's when there's it's kind of a sign of you need to look at some of the things. And those things might be, emotions or feelings that you have not really looked at before. And that might be scary, or it might be very difficult. So we need to really respect that and not put any pressure on anyone who doesn't feel ready to go through anything.
And you said you kind of started this decluttering process because it was kind of too much for you. And now you said that your kids are kind of, you're the role model and they're following you. But, how was it at that time? Did your family support it, this process? Because, I can see, I have 2 teenage daughters. So even if I declutter here, they're very reluctant to declutter their room. Yeah, because it's not so cool doing that. Yeah. So how do you kind of, because as you said, it's kind of a process of everybody living in this space, right? So you need to start somewhere, but it also needs to, involve the others in this house or household.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. The thing is, I would say the most important is to go through your own things first. Never force anyone else to follow something that you want to do. So in my case, I mean, of course, I had discussed this with my husband. He's quite the opposite from me, to be honest. He likes to collect things and keep things. So we've had a lot of discussions about, where is our golden middle path here. But the key is to only start with your personal things and items, because this is, as I said before, it's a very personal process. So when you go through joint things, you always need to ask the other person, for me, this is, I'm okay to let this go, but what about you? So if the other person says, I actually want to keep it, then there needs to be the respect of that's okay, then we keep it. So that's a very, very important, never to declutter anyone else's things. But in your question about the teenagers, I think the most important thing we can do is just allow them to go their own path. We should never force them. And when it comes to decluttering, I think it's contagious. I never thought my husband would start going through his things, but he did. But he needed a half a year more to be ready to go through his things. So he saw the changes that I made, not only externally, but internally as well, how I felt and how much calmer I was and how much more happy I was, because everything felt so much simpler in the household because of this big change. So I think that's what happens. Usually also Marie Kondo says it's contagious. So once one person starts, it might be contagious, but in case of teenagers, never force it. If they feel they want to try it, go for it. But I would never force it on anyone.
So in this case, you just close the door so you don't see it.
What
was your recommendation here?
Yeah, my recommendation would be to allow them to have their own space and do whatever they want in that space. But when it comes to mutual spaces, joint spaces, there needs to be a mutual respect that these are joint spaces and this is not your own room. In your own room, you can do whatever you feel like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a long time I did so, but I think now, because now the vacations start, and then when they're coming back, then it's the new school year, and I just think it's just not the right energy to start then a new school year with all this old stuff lying around. And so I suggested, that's just not because of our interview, but in general, I think you just, if you close something, it's good that you really kind of finish it, and then you start something new in a different energy and atmosphere. So that's why I propose to clean the room before we go on vacation.
I totally agree with you, but teenagers are in a very their mindset and their mood is very different to adults. And I've worked with a few teenagers, even tweens. So I mean, maybe I'm happy to do a session if you feel like it, but when they speak to someone who's not their parent, that might be a different reaction as well. So I think you need to just have the discussion. How do you feel about just, putting a closure to what you've had and now starting fresh with the new beginnings after the summer? So I don't know, maybe that sparks some interesting discussions. But that's all we can do really with the teenagers.
Okay. There are 5 more days, so. But it's a good recommendation. Yeah, maybe we are coming back to you. Yeah, they need to be open to that.
To start small. Maybe ask them to just do one little thing, and maybe that somehow magically would spark some more motivation if they do something and they can see the result and feel the difference. Because there is a burden actually falling off when you let go of old things. It really is like an energetic feeling of, I'm letting go of the past and now I can start fresh with something new.
Oh, that's so true. And the thing is with my younger daughter, it's actually the case because then when she really gets this impulse that she wants to clean up her room, then she does it in that moment. And she doesn't care if it's like at midnight or at 4 in the morning. Then she does it. And then she's really, so she knows the process.
Yeah, wow. So she has
unfortunately only happens once per year.
It's funny that you say that. I'm very similar to that. So when I get the urge to do something, then I don't care what time of day it is. I just do it, and until it's finished, I get so much energy from it. So usually when you start a decluttering project and you feel that, wow, this is going so well, then you don't want to stop before it's really done.
That's true. Then you're kind of a little bit addicted to it, right? You definitely want to finish. Yeah, you can't stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's so true. And I think you mentioned it before, when you spoke about how you kind of, also inspired your husband to look into his stuff. So what do you think is was your biggest change from decluttering?
For the family, you mean, or for me
No,
personally?
for yourself, for your personal one.
Yeah, for me, I would say it was, well, first of all, it sparked my interest in starting a company, doing this and combining my life coaching, as you mentioned in the beginning. And also because I noticed there was such a big difference in terms of how I felt. So, there's a lot of research also showing that when you have a tidy environment, it impacts your mental health and well-being. And also what your space looks like. So it doesn't matter if it's your home, your office space, wherever that might be, but you get a sense of peace and calm when things are really organized around you. And not only organized, also it needs to be beautiful in the sense that you feel happy in it. So beauty can be really, it's in the viewer's eyes. But it's really interesting. There's a neurodesigner, a Swedish lady called Isabel Sjöwall, and she's written this book called Designfulness, where she talks about exactly these things, how much your environment actually impacts you. So this is, of course, on a different level that, for example, the hospitals, how they should be designed, etc., so that people would get about well quicker, for example. But in my case, I felt it. It was so almost tangible. So that's why I cannot stop it. It feels like I need to get this message out so that more people can actually feel how amazingly light you can feel in your home, in your life, when you have things a bit more, I don't know, organized is maybe not the right word, but I like to use the word simplify. So you simplify your life, you simplify your home, you have less stuff to manage because everything we own needs to be maintained. So, the less you have, the less you need to maintain, whether that's shoes or property or cars or whatever. So it's just, I think for me, it's been just a huge aha moment that we can manage with so much less. And also to teach the kids, it's like a gift, giving them a gift of, you don't need to spend all your money on things, material stuff. Rather than just have what you really, really need and what you really want. That's a completely different ballgame.
Yes, I think what you want, because also this can change, right? At the beginning you want something, and then once you have it, you realize you don't really need it, right?
Absolutely. And that I noticed that also with my kids and their toys. In the beginning, they want something so badly, and then they play with it for a very short time, and then it's just dusting on the shelves. So now we have a completely different approach. We do a lot of secondhand shopping. We really try to keep things at a minimum. And if you ask kids in general, I mean, there's also a lot of research showing that the more toys and the more alternatives the children have, they get overwhelmed and they don't know what to play with. So the less you have, the better.
So true. Yeah, it's also true for us. Um, and you also said it has an impact on the way you felt. So did it also have an impact on your relationships?
I would say so, because I felt so much lighter in my skin and so much more comfortable. So I would say when my husband started doing his turn and going through his things, I think now life is a bit more easier. We exactly know where things are. We know where to put things back after we've used them. So it's much quicker to get ready to go somewhere. I think it's made a big difference, because he was quite chaotic before, and now he feels, he knows exactly where to go. And I think this is also key, that once you have done this big clean out or clear out or whatever you want to call it, tidying process, that you actually show the whole family that this is how our household works. And this is where we put things, whether that are shoes, clothes, whatever, or beach stuff, garage, car things, etc., so that everybody knows where to find things. So it's not only behind one person, or always go to mommy to ask, where is that and where is that? So I think that's really the key. And also to have this maybe a family meeting of sorts, where you really go through what is important for us, so that everyone can have their say, and then everybody else needs to respect that.
Wow, that's beautiful. And how often do you have that?
You don't need to have it very often. You can do maybe once a year or so, but then we have a list of things. And we all have 2 things on our list, and then everybody has to respect those rules. So I mean, for me, it's I want to have all the counters, everything clean in the kitchen, so that we can start the next day from a very clean surface, and have everything ready again. And for the kids, they also like order. Kids actually naturally like order and organization. So I can't remember what my kids had on the list, but it was something like they want to have the TV area very tidy, and they want to find the remote controls, etc. So they are responsible for that area. So it's very easy. And then we do always the so-called evening reset. We take 5 minutes every evening, and everybody puts things back that had been in use for the day. And that really makes a complete difference for how you start the next day, when everything is already where they should be.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I think so we don't have any issues with finding things. It's just that sometimes like with books, I think this is always for me a big topic, because I like reading, and I started kind of buying books and more lending them or borrowing them. But then, not always get find that book you really were looking for or you want to read right now. But I think for me, it's kind of books are the biggest burden, because they're really heavy and, but also very inspiring on the other side.
Oh, absolutely. Books are lovely. And, with books, you can do so much. If you want to keep all those books, be my guest if you're going to reread them. But I think there's also something that changed in my mindset, that I don't need to keep everything. Once I've read the book, it's actually done its purpose. And if I really want to reread it in 10 years, then maybe I can get it somewhere or borrow it. But I think you can organize your bookshelves. You know exactly where you have what. You can do it by theme or alphabetically or colors or whatever visually attracts you. So maybe maybe you can find a solution that works for you, or even have a shelf that is like, this is what I'm reading now, or to read. So then keep them there and always find the newest ones.
Yeah, that's what I have as well. But so I have like kind of a shelf where there are all the books I kind of got or found or whatever, and they're on my to-do list for not to-do list, but I really want to read, and
Yeah.
and so and it's very convenient, because every time, I finished one book, then I just go there and look at them and say, but what's which book I continue now? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And books are fascinating. I mean, they have so much to give you, but also I think you can actually, if you go home to someone you don't know, for example, there's a lot you can analyze by their bookshelf and what they have in there. It's super interesting when you start doing that.
What's on your bookshelf right now?
Oh, I actually just got the newest edition is a book about fasting. It's called Fast Like a Girl. And I found it so interesting because it takes hormones and cycles into account. So that's going to be my next read.
Oh, very cool. Very, yeah. And also, yeah, with food and everything, it's also kind of course, on one side, it gives you energy, but it always depends what kind of food. And we also always, sometimes we tend to eat more than we actually need, or things we don't need at all. So yeah, it fits completely into your decluttering space, right?
It does, because it's about healing yourself. So actually there she talks about should incorporate a bit longer fast sometimes. And because we eat too much. We eat too much processed food. We eat much more than we need. So I think this is what fascinated me, that then the body can heal itself when you're fasting. So let's see what it says.
Okay, yeah, maybe we find out more in our next interview, right? Helena, there's one thing you're also offering, and that I found really to the point, is this digital decluttering. So what do you suggest here?
I love this topic because it's just growing and growing and growing. I mean, we cannot live without the digital parts anymore, but it's become a huge issue and a huge burden for so many people. And this is why I also have my digital declutter course, because I felt there is a need to have a system to maintain all of this digital clutter. And I mean, there is no one size fits all, and there is no quick fix to this, unfortunately, but there are things you can do to have your photographs organized. There are things you can do to keep your diary a little bit not so chaotic and not so crammed with things all the time. And this is, again, looking into what is the most important to you, what matters to you. So we need to be very harsh in prioritizing, in unsubscribing for unwanted things that we never read anyway, and not we need to own, we need to own our technology rather than the other way around. So I think it really is about being very, on one side, harsh with what we don't want, and on the other side, we need to figure out what works for us. Because, taking a course here and there and listening to other people, it's not about us. And this is where we really need to look inside. What feels good about me or good for me? What do I get most energy out of? There are these morning routines where you shouldn't check your phone for the first hour when you get out of bed, for example. That's a great idea, but for some people, it's just not possible. You might need to check something, depending on what kind of work you do, and so on. So I think it's a way of finding out what really works in your case. And this is about getting the well-being out in the workplace, where you really need to look at what works for me and my family and my situation. Where can I flex? When is the best time for me to work? Maybe having some email slots. That's what I really love to do, and also to recommend to people. So check your emails in the morning, have an hour for that allocated, and then you can do the same in the afternoon, so that you're not constantly interrupted by the constant feed of new emails, new pings here and there, and put off the notifications. That's the most efficient way to get something done.
Yeah, I lately kind of also started unsubscribing newsletters. I think they're really interesting, but then it's also this time management. Yeah, you need to prioritize and just can't read everything. And I'm also kind of, my approach is also, if it's really important information, I can always check before energetically if it's important for me, if I should read this newsletter or listen to this podcast or read this book. And then if I really still want to read it, it's just for fun. You can do that as well. But it's so, nice to have your, by private mailbox. There are not so many mails in there, and there is less. It's really, as you say, it's liberating.
Yeah, I totally agree. And checking in with yourself, is this worth my time? Do I really want to read this? And then you can have maybe a folder where you put those things in if you don't have the time to do that straight then and there. But usually going through that mailbox straight in the morning is a help for you, because then you already filter what's important to me. What do I want to look at later on when I have time? So I think we have to be careful with not always, we are so kind of time optimists. We want to do everything, but there isn't time to do and read everything. So I think that's, again, we need to be sure that we really focus on what really makes us happy, makes us move forward with the things we want to do.
And I think it's also a little bit of trust, right? That if it's an important information, it will come to you anyway.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Then it will come again and again. You can't miss it if it's supposed to be.
Somebody else will tell you, or that's what I learned, that if I miss out on this newsletter or whatever, then I definitely get this information some other channel, right? So I'm a little bit more relaxed on this missing out on information, like this FOMO and fear of missing out. So it's of course it's more a teenager thing, but there are also adults having it. And if you trust that if it's important for you, you get the information, then it's makes your life simpler, as you're saying.
Oh, totally. I couldn't agree more with you, Cornelia. I think this FOMO is something that is worth looking at for those who experience it a lot. And I think, yes, for the younger generation, it's a lot, of course, when they're growing up. But for us as well, I noticed myself that in the past years, the less I actually care, the better I feel. So this is, again, a process of, things get so much easier when you don't think about, oh, did I miss out? Because you don't miss out, really. It's exactly like you say, what's meant for you will come anyway, no matter if you didn't go to that party or you didn't read that thing. So I think it's really about the trust that it will come to you.
That's very cool. And we've spoken now so much about decluttering, and I think you already mentioned it before, but just to wrap it up, is it doing it like once, and even if it's longer process, so how do you keep going? Do you have like a tip here that you not then fall back into your old habit, but that you continue to keep your house and also your life clearer?
I love this question. And I would say, if you really take the time to go through all your belongings, then you never want to do it again. So that's at least a sure way to not fall back into the old habits. But I think you change so much so that you don't want to have the need or feel the need to declutter again. But of course, there's a lot of maintenance needed. So you do need to put away some time, preferably every week or so. But it's in small chunks. Again, if you keep everything maintained and organized during the week, you don't have this big mountain of things to do during the weekend. So I think if you do a little every day, then there's never going to be an issue. And also having your family to help out if you live with other people. So I think just having some small systems in place is really key here.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And so now there's one last question I'm always asking at the end of the podcast. So, and it is, what is giving you energy? What do you do when you really need energy?
I start singing or dancing, but singing is my go-to. I love it.
Okay, so what kind of songs do you sing?
Doesn't really matter, but I used to sing in a choir, and I still do actually. So there's a lot of songs that are sort of favorites. Some of them Scandinavian, some of them just the usual pop songs. That's not really important. I think it's more about the feeling that I get of it, and then of course spending time in nature. That's really my other happy place.
Wow, so cool. Thank you so much, Helena. It was really a pleasure to learn how to get started to declutter your, not only your place or your house, your apartment, and to transfer it in a home, but also kind of declutter your whole life and also yourself and change the energy. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Cornelia. It was such a pleasure.
Okay, so I will, put all the links into the show notes, so where people can reach out to you, and also your Insta and your homepage, and maybe they get inspired to yeah. So you're offering also online sessions, or do you really need to come to people's house?
No, both. I do both. So
okay.
Everything works.
So Helena is located in Zurich or close to Zurich, but as you said, she can come remotely right into your place and help you out there, which I think, it's one of the advantages of all the technology we are now allowed to use. And then so check out her homepage and also get inspired on her Instagram account. Are you on any other social medias?
I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well, but I'm most active on Instagram.
Okay. I think, it's always a good place to find inspiration, but don't spend too much time there, right?
Oh, no. No.
So thank you so much, Helena. Thank you for listening. Energy on, and see you all soon.